guys, welcome back to the Attachment Point Insurance Nerds News Roundtable, or Insurance Nerds Attachment Point News Roundtable. I think I did that one backwards today, but we'll roll with it. Welcome, Zach. Yeah, Zip Bonds, I wanted to get you on here to talk about what you're up to. I know Coverage Direct is also a really cool company that you built out that feels like a next generation agency, I think in a lot of ways, but thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And it feels strange finally connecting with you when I feel like I've known you for so long via Twitter. I think there's a lot of people in the insurance space that I probably feel like you really know and are good friends, but you don't really, have a whole lot of conversations with them. So I'm excited to do this and appreciate you letting me talk a little bit about Zip and some of the other things that we're doing.
Yeah, I'm glad. I know we did the Zoom the other day. There's times too, I'll just hop on a call with people from the industry. Like there's no real direct need. It doesn't matter that day, but just build a real relationship. It's so helpful. And it's pretty cool how it's a blue open ocean industry. We're talking about that before recording, how you're building these tools for yourself and just sharing them with other agents. There's plenty of opportunity out there for all of us. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. I don't know. It's something about this space that just pulls you in, right? Like once you get in, you can't get out. And it's really hard to have conversations with just your everyday friends that don't understand the stuff that we're talking about, because eyes glaze over and yeah, cool, man. You've got a issue with that insurance thing. Awesome. That sounds super exciting. And they're just can I talk about literally anything else?
Yeah. That's funny.
It's one of the easiest ways to get out of a conversation you don't want to have when, they ask, what do you do? Oh, I'm in insurance.
Well, then, you identify with Flo from Progressive when they're like, we can't talk about insurance today at the beach day. Just waiting for the
exactly. Which unfortunately is one of my favorite things to talk about. So I, then struggle. But then again, like you say, you just connect with people. It seems to be Twitter is the place I find most of those. But just having good conversations with either other agents or people in the space trying to do cool things.
Oh, totally. It's been a great little microcosm. I was even joking on my birthday, the people I wanted to invite out were all over the country, ended up having some friends locally, but, Lambrelli or other guys like that,
Given where you live, at least I can speak for myself personally. I'd be more than happy to come out for your birthday. If you want to, invite me, I'll come
get a seat on the next Duffy. Yeah.
Yeah.
The insurance folks wouldn't like it. So you're not supposed to go around this little island, but we never done it before. It's called Newport Island. It was off Newport Boulevard. So we went around this little private island, almost got stuck. They're like, there's a reason why the waiver says don't go into there.
Do it. That's it.
But anyways.
Well, I'd be probably that. Yeah. I'd be that friend telling you no, let's do it. Let's just give it a shot.
I did it once. Yeah, I had to check it out.
It happened.
Seemed fine. But yeah, so Zip Bonds, the bond industry is fragmented. If we think insurance is fragmented, if we think insurance is a lot of paperwork and P&C still has some work to do, bonds were you're stepping back to the early 2000s probably. I don't know. What was your survey? Why did you guys jump in?
So that's a really good question. I guess I'll start and I'll go back to kind of where this all started, and it kind of nagged at me. So there's obviously problems in this space, right? And my business partner Ryan and I are just really drawn to going and fixing problems. And in fact, when we left the company that we worked with, we worked together at, the whole idea was there's a way that we can use technology that's not being used currently, and we want to go do that. That was the whole start of where Coverage Direct, came from. But early in my career, I was a commercial producer. And primarily, I just seemed to navigate, it seemed to be contractors were guys that I just like to be around, right? So I would start talking to them and getting things going and setting up my book of business to contractors. And it would, as my clients got bigger and bigger, the question came up, they're like, hey, if you can't do my bonding, then, really it's no conversation that we should be having. And I remember being specifically on the phone, cold calling someone, and they're saying, hey, can you do bonding? And I was like, can we do bond? Yeah, we can do bonding. We can do that. And I had no idea, right? Because I didn't really understand what it meant. And then going down that path of trying to figure out how to get it done, and then if it doesn't meet the standard requirements, and at the time I really didn't understand what was so difficult or hard to understand from the underwriting perspective, as opposed to what we were doing on the insurance side, right? I mean, in reality, now I know that they're obviously two different products, and there's a reason why they're underwritten differently. But at the time, I had no idea, and it just seemed very confusing. So I was reaching out to a few of the carriers, like I would from an insurance perspective, to get educated on it. And it was a real quick, you're not worth my time. And that always stuck with me. So I mean, that's going on basically 10 years ago, right? And so it wasn't something that was a priority, but it was always kind of on that list of things that nagged me and wanted to fix. So you fast forward to, we start Coverage Direct, we get this agency going, still doing commercial, having the opportunity to work with some really great contractors, and we're writing some surety, but we weren't doing it enough to really become subject matter experts, right? And so there would be questions that would come up and things that we would want to do. And I just remember, and I'm sure you've run into this as well, that if you can't find somebody that's within what you consider your standard, which we didn't have a whole lot to begin with because we didn't do it enough, and then you have to send it off to a broker or someone else, you have to start the whole process over again. And I kept feeling like we were working with people who were trying to underwrite to find a no, instead of people that wanted to hear the story, figure out a way to get a yes, and or if they couldn't, at least have the tools to provide that contractor, that person applying for it, a way to get to where they needed to be. And so we went searching for that solution, and for the most part, right, it didn't exist. Like at least we couldn't find it right at the time that we initially started going down this path. And it was shortly after that we were at ITC. We noticed that there wasn't a whole lot of anything around surety there, and like this kind of light bulb started going off. And like I said last time we talked, the further we went down that rabbit hole, the more and more opportunity we saw to build something that would assist us to do with what we wanted to do, right? But like everything we've done on the agency side, we also created with the intent of providing the option to help other agents in the process, because that's kind of at the core of who we are. That's what drives us. Like everybody wants to make money, but for us it was about solving a problem, and it means more to us that we can do something to help agents as well. So
yeah,
that's what this all started.
And I heard some cool humility too, where you're like, hey, if there's these multi-million dollar back startups who can't figure out D2C, who are we to think we can do it? I thought that was a cool kind of down to earth perspective on it. I nerded out on our call about being, growing up around the moving and storage industry and certificates of insurance and surety bonds, bond per projects. And it had clicked with me, but I haven't been a contractor construction space enough yet. It is a space I'd like to work into a little bit more. But yeah, totally makes sense. And, those guys want it simple, down to earth, quick. They're just trying to get on their job. They have the requirement that day. You had mentioned helping them prep for bidding too. I thought that was a cool little caveat, that you're working on as well. I think seems like a lot of good resources you're building for the guys out there. Yeah.
Well, that was part of the problem though. So like, you work with this guy to gain his trust, and, or the woman, whatever, because I work with contracting clients that are female owned, but you try to figure out how do we get in front of this person for so long. And then once they trust us to take care of something for them, we were relying on these, carriers, a couple carriers, and then like a broker where we had to start all over again, and really didn't feel like we were given the tools, if we couldn't help them, to help them get to that next step. And so inevitably, we just started developing our own way of doing that, right? So, okay, they said no, here's why. What could have helped us get to that yes? What needed to be different? And over time, you start to realize that a lot of it's the same stuff, right? People aren't taking very good care of their books. They have poor spending habits. They're over leveraged. They're not, thinking through the things that they would need. And right now, I'm just specifically talking to the contract side of things, not commercial. And so, and which is part of the reason why, it really got us going on this. So we wanted to create those tools to help them understand how to get to the next step. So, as an example, we're working right now with a great CPA, putting together content to help better lay that out specifically in detail, step by step, A to B to C to D, nothing overly complicated, and putting that in a consumable form of content to give to that contractor that either is looking to go to the next level, or didn't qualify, or just doesn't know anything about bonding and wants to get started, right? So it's cool. It's part of the reason why we did this, right? To fix that, what we believe is a problem, not only for us, but also for the people that we were trying to serve.
What I'm kind of hearing too is there's a little bit, not to say ignorance, but we don't know what we don't know, and people operate in a way that makes sense to them, financially, business wise, whatever else, and you're just helping your clients level up. That's cool, because like the level of insurance you get to sell goes up as well. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I
think especially because you're working with business owners, right? Not a lot of us like to admit when we don't know something. We don't sound stupid or feel like we should have known that. So what we try to do is provide these. We're building and creating these different tools to provide them without them having to ask for it.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, because there's a lot of, again, there's nothing wrong with it. Being very proud of what you've done and what you've built. And I feel the same way about the businesses that we've built. I don't want to necessarily always admit I'm probably better at them.
You have to have a little bit of a stubborn streak in you to go out there.
Yeah.
And then you get better at it. Like, I've kind of pushed off the shore 3 years ago, and worked under somebody to learn a little bit, partner somebody to learn a little bit, got the LLC, like you don't know day one what you don't know, your first time through business taxes, for instance. It's kind of interesting. And these guys are all doing their best, and they're trying to get business, and they're trying to feed their families, and they're trying to keep the guys working.
Exactly. You're right. You don't know what you don't know. And again, I will it work? Will it be something that I don't know. But the idea is like we wanted to create something that we at least felt useful in learning.
Mm-hmm.
So building out that we became better, advisors in doing that. And so if that helps that contractor and again the agents that we hope to work with on our platform, then there you go. I mean, and the idea is, as somebody who sold commercial, literally cold calling for years, building up a book of business, I didn't think to lead with surety. And you could create something where you do that. So we want to create ways to help those agents get better at what they do and then connect and pivot to selling the commercial insurance as well, which, again, is part of our mission with Zip.
And then you had mentioned it reminded me of talking to Alex Frohmeister from Beam, just how big the dental insurance market is. The bond market's a lot bigger than, we'd think as well, right?
Yeah, it is. And I'm going to misquote this, but, because last year things went down a little bit, but somewhere in the $7 billion range, here, that's, commercial contract in the United States. It's a little bit, larger worldwide when you go there, but there's a lot of it here. And depending on what state you're in, it can be one of those really big opportunities. Now, on the flip side, we have the commercial insurance or commercial surety stuff that we showed you. And that's really one of those things where as soon as anybody in your office picks up the phone to try to do it, you've already lost money, right? Because it's very much like what you would consider, and I know some people will, scream at me for this, but there's renter's insurance. How much value are you bringing in that, that case, right? Like in certain situations, I would agree that you can have, some of that, but at the end of the day, like what we want to do is create a better process for that. And if there's something that's literally like as we call it, a select pay print instead of quote line, it's the same idea. But if we can provide that tool for that agent to put on their site and make it so much easier for them to just do directly or just via a link in an email, like we want to do that too, because that again, when we started, that's the problem we had. It was taking up too much time.
I think especially something like a bond where there's a set amount they know they need, they know what they want to get. Speaking of the devil, one of our friends, Nick Lamparelli's calling me, so I'll talk to him later. But it's always fun. Just joking around about Lamparelli calling me.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's a good guy. I heard from BrokerLift, they're a cool Canadian startup a long time ago. It stuck with me. Anything under 1,200 commercial and 400 personal, you should figure out how to automate. And anything north of that, there might be some consultation. But bicycles, photography equipment, like you're saying, these simple, simpler bonds that have a direct use. As an agent, I don't mind direct to consumer. I just want to set up guardrails. I want to set like, okay, they can buy auto insurance, but if they want to go south of this, I want to talk to them first. 50, 150, maybe in California. I just think it'd be pretty cool proactively to, be able to guide what goes through your pipes. That was always my 2 cents.
I completely agree. I think I don't put a dollar value on it per se. I just think to myself, like if you're a contractor getting a license and permanent bond, for a city or village or state, whatever it is you're working in, and it's underwritten basically the same way and it passes straight through, there's not a whole lot we're going to be able to walk them through with that, right? So let's just make it an easy process and make it so, again, for ourselves, we wanted to create that direct pass through. We also wanted to be able to truly white label that and provide an option if somebody wants to plug it into their site. I don't believe, and you probably, you definitely know more about this data than I do, but like when I think of the struggles of even the direct to consumer P&C people trying to get people to go to their website and pass everything, it was never as easy as they thought it was going to initially be, right? I think, as somebody likes to control my buying experience as much as I want to, I still at the end want to talk to somebody to make sure I didn't screw up. I use one of the first LLCs I set up, I used instead of, it was Rocket Lawyer instead of, what's the other big one?
I know you're talking about.
LegalZoom. So I use Rocket Lawyer, and I set up my own LLC completely on my own. But even before I pushed that button to do it, I kind of just wanted to talk to somebody to make sure I didn't screw anything up, right? And I think that if we can even create that process in a lot of what we do with our pre-qualifications on the contract side, or some of these more underwritten commercial bonds, like it's still, we can control that experience to a point and educate them as best we can along the way, and then get in contact with a human before you do it. I don't want to create everything click quote bind. So
well, and you'll have I would say the majority of your clients, majority of the prospects, they want it to be click quote bind. They're familiar with what they need. They know what they need. They're just trying to get it done. If you can't done quick, like they're going to move on to somebody else. But I would say, for 5%, 10% for those newer contractors who are unsure, you want to get a hold of somebody. You want to talk through it, make sure what you're buying is right. Not have to do double work.
And so I think of, when I started my insurance career, right, I was in Illinois, and they call them villages instead of cities where I was at. And, every village had their own contractor, permit bond. So, and we struggled through it at State Farm, by the way,
Oh, wow.
where I was at when I was doing it, and like literally did not know what we were doing. But anyway, we struggled through and got a few of those things done. But the idea is like, even if you could lead with that, right, and like that contractor's going to you because you make it simple and easy, and then you can pivot to go back to get their commercial, and then eventually they're home, and then they get the referrals. Like it's just another way, I think, to start the process of nurturing an account that a lot of people haven't typically done. And then we also, as I kind of alluded to in the demo, is we want to create like a concierge experience. And what I mean by that is, we look at the 20 bonds a year that we were doing prior to this, right? If it wasn't such a pain point for us, or saw the opportunity after we talked to some of our carriers, what they were looking for, we probably wouldn't have gone down that road, because it wouldn't have made sense for us, right? If they could have had someone else to take that off the hands, our desk, I should say, for us. That's what we want to create. I hate to give him credit for it, because Ryan's the one that came up with the idea, but he's like, just have him zip it over, and create a verb out of it. But then that way we can truly be a division of that agency to help them take care of surety when they just don't want to do it, don't understand it enough, or just don't do enough of it to care.
Well, that's where I think like the future of, insurtech and insurance is bright. A lot of these simpler things, a lot of these more direct things are going to be taken care of, and we're going to get to be more relationship people, rather than paperwork people. I think it's great. I think it's really cool the way you're offloading it. Yeah.
Have you ever talked to Chris Green, the flood insurance guru?
A little bit. Right? Yeah.
And I didn't take this from him, but when I saw how he was doing that, we send the majority, if not all of it. Ryan runs that side of the house now, so I don't really know day to day as much as I used to. But we just send it over to him because he provided a better experience. He really knew what he was talking about. We ran into it only a few times a year that it was really that important to get. And we just said, here, you just take that. And that's essentially, not to take that from him, and I don't think he would care even if I did, but that's the experience we want to create. We want to provide a great experience so you can go back to focusing on your clients and the relationship, right? And
I think it's really cool. And it's the old Adam Smith differentiation of labor. As this stuff gets more involved, we're going to have more and more specialists that are going to take care of certain things. And you're making like a little digital specialist. But I think it's really cool about your platform is, the servers are going to be kicking butt, and you got the servers organized, with the documents, everything else. I think it's so cool how, you got that lined up. What
well, that's the nerdiness between us, right? Where we get really into the details and can geek out about
cool.
it.
That's what I say. You're kind of doing the dream. I want to be able to organize this stuff, get the simple thing kind of taken care of that way, kind of get back to relationships, build, I would say, the network and the opportunity as opposed to pushing paper. But the catch-22 is you have to get really good at the paper, I think, to automate it properly. Like, I still feel like I need to be a better agent. I might work on contractors, for instance, to kind of grow my opportunities. Because you feel like to do the cool tech stuff, you need to know the boots on the ground stuff. It's hard to just jump right in, So.
I agree very much. That's why we were so intentional about hiring, people that were in this space. And that's really hard too in the surety space, mind you. But, I take just our first employee as an example, bring him on, like he just understood what we were trying to solve here. And like the immediate, like, yes, I get why that's needed. I want to do that. But he had an underwriter, background, and so it made sense because the things that were causing the holdups or whatnot, he could see from being on the carrier side, so. And we'll continue to bring people on from that space as we move forward to be those subject matter experts.
Well, I think to the underwriter side, being a sales guy who needs to push himself to be a little bit more organized, the underwriters are going to be the opposite, where they're going to be a little bit more, I'll call it tight, analytical, kind of no to yes. And I think as you're building something like bonds, building organizational structure, by all means, I think it's a great fit,
You can't have just the sales guys doing that because they overpromise and underdeliver.
Oh yeah, we get a little too excited.
Sure.
Everything's a good idea, That's funny.
Paying attention to make sure that that things are being done the right way in the right order. Because there's times, look, there's going to be times you still have to say no to things, right?
Well, that's the leader. That's the CEO. It's a no before a yes, and then a yes. Yeah.
Well, we talk about so we look back at some of these different examples that we use. I remember, and I know, some people take it for what it is, whether you like progressive or don't like progressive, but one of the things that someone said at one of the meetings, like, look, we used to make a lot of money writing the stuff that nobody else wanted to write. We would have a price for every driver. And I forget which leader it was, but they said, basically we got to a point where we found that there's still some drivers that still, they're just not even, there's no way we could underwrite to get to a profitability point with them. So like I said, there's things you still have to say no to as far as we work with, but for for the most part, what we wanted to create with this is if there's a possibility or a way to get to a yes, like we wanted to be able to do that and make it so they don't have to go to two different people, right? If they go to a broker, they don't have to do that anymore. They can just go to one.
Well, the most recent bond I had to do was like for a 401k. I want to say an ERISA bond. But it's the kind of thing that like just sits on like the bottom of your list for a couple of days. You don't want to do it until you hit a wall, then you try, and then like something doesn't work, and then it lingers for a couple more days while I put out a few other fires, and you get back to it.
It's not, and it's just one of those things. Like, it's not, if you're not doing it every single day, it's not really hard. But if you're not doing it every single day, it's just kind of one of those annoying things. It wasn't a risk. I forget which one it was, but I said the joke was, I think every single one of these gets written at like 4:49 on a Friday, because it's like the last thing anybody's trying to do to get off their desk before the weekend.
I could see that. So Coverage Direct kind of got you here. So State Farm was more of a traditional agency. Then I think I saw a little bit of agency sort of tied to a credit union. And then you got Coverage Direct as well.
Yeah. So my whole life cycle, I started, to be completely transparent, with a life insurance company that sold over the phone. That did not last very long. So that's why I don't reference it very often. It was, 3 months. So then the State Farm path, I prior was an entrepreneur in a different venture outside of insurance. And that was one of the reasons that, insurance attracted me. The space was attractive, I should say. And so did that whole path and quickly realized that the captive, I didn't know at the time when I got into it, the captive agent and the independent agent model.
If you don't like hearing no, you shouldn't work at a captive, I would think.
Well, that's the thing. But but what I would say is, like, if you want to be a really good agent, one of the things I do not take for granted is if you're really good at selling a captive, man, it makes it easy to sell independent, because
that's cool.
It's so hard to get a yes when you have so many things, including people who sell the same paper as you, that are going to lower limits down the street to provide a lower cost. I mean, it was a very humbling and very, educational experience to learn from that. So got on the independent side, was lucky enough to work with my now business partner, Ryan, for a few years as commercial producer, and then started Coverage Direct. We worked for a malpractice company that specialized in chiropractors, right? So we saw kind of what the attraction of being attached to an affinity could create.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And once we figured out where we wanted to go with the technology, which is really kind of the thing that was pushing us, we said, okay, wouldn't it be great if we take this technology and what we were trying to do and somehow connect that to a larger at-bat opportunity? We looked at franchises, we looked at different affinity groups, and happened to find this great leadership team at the fourth largest credit union in Iowa, and helped them create their agency. So yeah, it's worked out really well there. And now Coverage Direct is no longer a direct to consumer agency. We sell, basically a platform to financial institutions.
It's that's really cool. I didn't realize that. That's interesting. So to kind of digitize that side of the house a little bit. It's funny. Like Surround Insurance the other day asked when I bought my first, or just on Twitter, when you bought your first insurance policy. Mine was through like an insurance agent at a credit union that like my buddy who was selling me the truck was a member of. I was buying it. The guy was right there. Mercury.
Well, it's yeah, there you go. But I mean, it's literally like these institutions that don't have it. Really, it's you're not doing a service to your clients, members, whatever you call them, because someone else is already offering that. Every single person that comes in there is likely to need what you already have to be able to provide as an option. So the way that we looked at it is we just created the most efficient way of doing that and creating that division for the credit union. And I mean, again, the team that's over there in the leadership really is what sold us on why we wanted to work with them. They're so forward thinking and, not looking at, well, this is the way it's always been done, but rather what would it look like if we did it this way? And so it was a good group.
My first startup that I touched was like 2014 to 16. My friend was an investment banker. It was a data visualization startup. And I just helped them kind of open doors, did some cold calling on the side. It was fun. I didn't have a clue how many banks and credit unions there were in the US. It was insane, A
lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
That's
and
pretty
enough,
cool.
There's a lot to go around there. But yeah, I mean, that's, again, you look at the things that we've done here, really, we run at problems. And, I don't, it's probably an episode all by itself, but talking through how we got to the point that we decided to move forward with Salesforce and all the things that we've done there to create the efficiencies that we have, like, that was really saying, I'm tired of accepting how everyone else tells me I have to do it. And we're just going to figure out how to do it the way we want to, and just wouldn't take no for an answer. And that took years to get to that point. But that experience also pulled us to where we're at now, where, it's a lot easier the second time around, because everything we've done with Zip now also works through directly
Cool.
through Salesforce, and it's just easier this go around.
What I'm kind of hearing too is we didn't go into detail here, but you're going to take some losses along the way. It's not always going to be a perfect route. You kind of spend money to make money a little bit, know your pain point, like fight hard to solve the pain point, you know, and if you have it, you know, chances are you could bank that other people are going to have the same pain point too. You know, I like the blue ocean mindset that not only are you enabling your agency, but you're going to help other agents, you know, similarly get out there. It's cool.
I wouldn't say that we have like this like matrix that we go through and say, okay, it has to check all these boxes before we move forward with it. But I would say there's definitely a source of, is this a problem? Yes. Do we know a way that we think we can at least start towards, even though if we don't know exactly what the solution is, but we know how to go there, we have the resources to somehow do that? Yes. Also, is there a way to help others in the process? I mean, that's everything we've done has been that way. And it's not even just like, I don't want to come across as this kumbaya, like I'm only here to help
competitive. Yeah.
It's not that at all. It's just like, when you can help somebody else solve a problem, there's money to be made. Right. And so we do want to, you know, like everybody gets in this space, they want to make money, but in the same sense, like what I'm trying to say is like, there's a way to do that, but also have a lot of fun helping people solve what, you know, you couldn't do, because not that people can't, but it's more, I don't know, there's things that restrict them from being able to do it. I think there's probably a plenty of, you know, great producers out there right now that are working at a firm or working for somebody that has this great idea, you know, similar way, and just haven't been able to kind of get to that, you know, opportunity, right? To
totally. And the hard part, and what's cool about what you guys have done is you got out on your own so you can experiment. And I totally understand when people need, I'll say, livelihood, good paychecks, when they can't quite make those bets, but they see the opportunity. I just think it's really cool that you guys are in position, no pun intended with your, you know, past life, but to drive your own way there, to, you know, have that success.
There's a whole other podcast is on about this, and like I won't recycle that, but man, it's the most difficult thing that I've ever done, but it was also worth it. So I'm glad that I got to the chance to do it and whatnot. And it just, the pain still is easily remembered when I think about like how hard that was to get to that point. Could do the other things.
Well, I'm still kind of working on getting my own kind of feet set and still growing and developing as an agent, you know, every day, hopefully. But I appreciate it, man. No, congrats on getting Zip launch. We'll get this up, and then we'll do a follow-up in a little while, see how you're doing out there, and, you know, check back in with you.
Appreciate it. Well, I appreciate you giving me the time to come on and talk about it, and I'll be happy to jump on another one anytime you want me.
Sounds good, Zach. We'll talk soon. Thanks, guys.